She was one of the most enigmatic faces of European cinema, a beauty so arresting it stopped directors, critics, and audiences in their tracks. With her haunting eyes, captivating silence, and a presence that lingered long after the screen went dark, Nastassja Kinski wasn't just an actress, she was a mystery waiting to be unraveled. But now, at 64, she has quietly slipped from the Hollywood spotlight. And what's happened to her since? Well, the answer might just surprise you. Born in Berlin in 1961, Nastassja Kinski was no stranger to the limelight. She was the daughter of Klaus Kinski, one of Germany's most controversial and intense actors. His legacy, one of brilliance marred by volatility, was both a gift and a curse. For Nastassja, growing up in that world meant early exposure to fame, but also to instability. She once described her childhood as lonely, turbulent, and riddled with fear. Still, it was perhaps that very emotional depth that made her such a compelling actress later on. She began modeling in her teens, her otherworldly looks catching the attention of fashion photographers and filmmakers alike. By the age of 15, she had landed her first role in the German film The Wrong Move, directed by Wim Wenders. But it was Roman Polanski's 1979 film Tess that turned her into a global sensation. The story of Tess of the D'Urbervilles required more than beauty. It demanded tragedy, innocence, strength, and pain. Kinski gave all of that and more. Her portrayal earned her a Golden Globe and established her as one of the most promising talents of her generation. And just like that, she wasn't just Klaus Kinski's daughter anymore. She was Nastassja, singular, independent, and unforgettable. Throughout the 1980s, she captivated audiences in films like Cat People, Paris, Texas, and One from the Heart. Directors loved her for her vulnerability. Her stillness on screen felt like a whisper that pulled you in. She didn't have to shout to be heard. She had that rare power to say everything with her eyes. But beneath the stardom, there was always a sense that she was running from something. Maybe her past, maybe the shadow of her father, maybe the crushing weight of being a muse to so many, yet understood by so few. While her beauty was celebrated, it often overshadowed her raw acting talent. Hollywood, as it often does, struggled to place her. Was she the femme fatale, the tragic heroine, the foreign exotic? Roles grew fewer, and the scripts less daring. And quietly, in the 90s and early 2000s, she began to step back. But her departure was not some tragic downfall. No scandals, no meltdowns, no tragic headlines. Nastassja simply chose something else, a life away from the spotlight. So, what happened to her? Today, Nastassja Kinski is 64, and while she's no longer gracing red carpets or starring in blockbusters, her story didn't end, it evolved. She has become, in many ways, exactly what her early roles hinted at, a quiet, reflective soul who values authenticity over attention. She lives mostly in Europe now and leads a life that's far more private than most former stars of her caliber. She's also a mother, something that means more to her than any award. She has 3 children, including model and actress Sonia Kinski. Nastassja has often spoken about how deeply she wanted to give her children the emotional safety she never had. She has tried to break the cycle of trauma that defined her own upbringing, and that, perhaps more than any role, might be her greatest accomplishment. Despite stepping back from the limelight, she hasn't disappeared entirely. In interviews over the past decade, she's opened up about the cost of fame, the pain of her past, and the quiet joy she's found in a slower, simpler life. Her voice is calm, her smile still magnetic. There's wisdom in her now, an earned softness that contrasts with the hard edges of her earlier years. And yes, she's still stunning, but not in the way tabloids measure beauty. At 64, there's a depth to her appearance, a quiet grace. The kind of beauty that doesn't scream for attention but resonates with a life well lived. Her hair has silvered slightly. Her skin carries the natural marks of time. But the intensity in her eyes, that famous Kinski gaze, remains completely unchanged. It's still there, that same mysterious light that once held movie theaters spellbound. What's truly remarkable is that Nastassja never chased the artificial fountain of youth that traps so many in Hollywood. She embraced aging. She welcomed the lines, the softness, the evolution of her body and soul. She never turned herself into a relic of who she once was. She chose instead to become who she is, fully, gracefully, and unapologetically. Her journey reminds us that some stars don't need constant visibility to remain powerful. Some stars burn quietly, in their own orbit, refusing to be swallowed by the machinery of fame. Nastassja Kinski isn't forgotten. She's revered. Admired by those who knew her work and rediscovered by newer generations who stumble across her old films and are captivated all over again. There's something poetic about her retreat from fame. In an era where oversharing is currency, she chose silence. In a culture obsessed with youth, she chose truth. And in a business that often chews people up and spits them out, she emerged with her dignity intact. Still, fans do occasionally get glimpses. A rare Instagram post, a photo at a film festival, a quiet appearance on a European talk show. And when those moments happen, the response is always the same: awe, admiration, and a kind of wistful longing for the era she represents.